Let's get locked. When we're talking about differentials and traction aids, you're basically going to have three options. You have your open differential, which most vehicles come with in stock form. You'll have a limited slip differential, which is an option in some vehicles. And then you'll have a locking style differential, which is what we're going to be doing today. Each type of differential has its pros and cons. An open differential has great road manners because when you go around a turn, the inside wheel moves slower than the outside wheel. The cons to an open differential is they suck off-road. As soon as one tire comes up off the ground a tiny bit, it'll spin, the other one will stop moving, and you're stuck. A limited slip is a good happy medium because you'll still have power to both wheels, good road manners. For snow and mud, they're great, but when you get off-road and you're lifting tires, that one wheel is still going to stop and you're not going to go. So if you really want to get into off-roading, a locking differential is the best way to go. And for these old Jeeps, we don't have a lot of options. Lucky for us, Kaiser Willys carries just what you need. This is a 10-spline Power Tracks or Lock-Right locker. So these fit the old 10-spline axles. They allow a ratchet action, so it'll still go around corners, but when you lift tires off-road, all four wheels are going to drive. In the box, you get everything you need, including a new pin, the little spring hardware kit, and instructions. This is part number LR2415. And it'll work with a Dana 41 and early 44 10-spline rear axles. Before we can install, we have to remove stuff. So let's tear this down. We're going to start by removing these locking tabs from the ring gear bolts. The ring gear must be removed on this differential because the gear protrudes past the main pin, so we can't remove the spider gears without taking this apart. Bend all these locking tabs out away from the ring bolts. Once you have all the locking tabs out of the way, just get a socket or an impact with an 11/16 socket, and these should pop right out. Before you remove all your ring gear bolts, I like to mark the orientation of the gear. So I just take a nice sharp scribe and scribe a line on the carrier and on the ring gear. You can see there, as soon as the bolts came out, the ring gear just fell off. Sometimes you'll have to tap them. Sometimes they'll fall right off. If you do have to tap it, use a brass or rubber hammer. Next step is to take a punch, drop it in this little hole right here, and drive out the roll pin. It should come out very easy. This is what it looks like. Set that aside, you reuse that pin. Once you have the roll pin out, you can remove the main pin. So just take a punch of some sort. It should drive out very easily. Now that all the pins are out, we're just going to walk the gears over to the side like that and pull them out. So there should be a gear and a little thrust washer like this. You want to make sure you get all the pieces out. 4 gears, 4 washers, and this center spacer, which is important, so keep that clean and set that to the side for later. One thing you want to check before we get too far into the reassembly is the length of the main pin. So we're not going to be reusing the original pin. The locker comes with a new pin, and if you notice, depending on your carrier, whether it's a 44 or a 41, the lengths might be different. So what we need to do is take our new pin, make sure we're on the side with the roll pin, and we're going to test fit it into the carrier. So, and tap it into the case until you can look down in the hole and make sure that the roll pin hole is lined up. It clears no problem. I think this is more of an issue on the Dana 41s. So you can see the pin protrudes. I have my roll pin in place, so it's in the right position, and we have tons of room. But it's better to find out now while we don't have all this stuff in here that we'd have to take back apart. Now to the part we've all been waiting for, reassembly together. So the first thing you're going to do is take one of your side gears, put some grease around this flange, like that. Take one of your thrust washers, put it on there, grease on the other side as well. And I like to just set the carrier like this and start on the bottom. So thrust washers in place. First one's done. Take the other one, same deal. Grease. Nice clean thrust washer. More grease. This is one time when it's helpful that it's really cold out here. So then we're going to take that one and push it up, give it a little twist, and the grease should hold that in place. That's going to make your life a lot easier. Next, you're going to take the side housings with the pin groove in it here, and 4 of your pins, and we're going to insert them in here. Next step is to take this piece and a roll pin covered in grease. You'll notice there's an elongated hole and a round hole. We're going to insert the pin into the elongated hole like that. It should be flush. So if the pin is sticking out, it means you put it in the wrong one. So come around to the other side. There's another one. We're going to get some grease on our pin, slide it in. Okay, so that one is done. Grab the other one. Grab a pin, find the elongated hole, get it greased up good, push it in. Repeat for all 4 pins, slide it in. Those pieces are ready. After that, take your center spacer, set it in here. You'll know you have it the right direction because these grooves they don't have to line up right now, but you do not want it like this. So make sure the grooves line up. And you're going to line these gears up with the gears in there. This has flats milled on the side so that it'll fit through the case. Slide it in like that, and you'll feel it drop right onto those little cogs. And that one's in place. Same thing for the other one. Slide it in, make sure it's in the right orientation. This one's going to be this way because we're going for the upper gear. And slide it in place. And that one's just going to kind of float there because the teeth aren't engaged. Next we take our main pin. And this is just a bit of a balancing act. One important thing is make sure the roll pin hole stays lined up so that you don't have to try to turn it once it's all together. And just keep finagling it until everything lines up. Once we have our pin and everything lined up, you're going to take your center spacer. I use a magnet. Line this hole up so the pin can pass through, and just do your best to guide it down in there. Helper if you need to. Oop, there it goes. Then you can remove your magnet and tap it the rest of the way through. And once all that's done, you can press your roll pin back in. We are almost done. Next up is the springs. So on each corner of this window you'll see our elongated slots with the roll pin that we inserted earlier. So I take a pick and push the pin up into the other side of the housing. Then you're going to take, you should have 8 springs. There's 4 small, 4 large. You put the small one inside the large one. It's going to be hard for me to show you. And you push it up into that elongated hole. Be careful they don't go flying. And just get a pick or a screwdriver. And you'll hear them kind of snap in. Just kind of use your finger and your pick. Pop it in there. It's annoying, but it's very doable. Just take your time. Very last step before we install our ring gear is to check the tolerances on this gap. That's the critical dimension to allow these to move and ratchet and lock properly. We want to do this before the ring gear's on in case we have to take it out. The way you would adjust this gap is by getting thicker or thinner thrust washers in here. The recommended dimension is 152 thousandths. So just take a regular micrometer or whatever you have to measure, and we're measuring this distance between the gap. So they would like to see 152 thousandths. I'm at 165 thousandths. We're going to check both sides in a few different spots in case it's not seated in there properly. Yeah, I'm at about 165 thousandths in on both sides. So they give you a range. It should be between 145 thousandths and 170 thousandths. So we're close to the upper range, but we're within spec. So we're good to go. Always check that before you begin your final assembly. As we get ready to reinstall the ring gear, it's really important that you clean out all these surfaces and threaded holes. So get some parts cleaner, get a rag. If there's any burrs on this or the carrier, they need to be filed down. It needs to be super clean. Same way with your bolts. Clean off the threads, make sure they're dry. And if you plan on reusing these little straps, inspect them, because when you fold them down, look how easy this breaks off. Okay, I didn't do anything extra to that. Some of them will be tougher than others. Oop, that one came off too. Once they're folded, they become extremely brittle. So you can reuse the one that's not been folded yet, or I'll put the part number in the description. You can get a new set of straps, new bolts if you want, when you order your locker. So I'll put that in the description. I'm going to use a couple of 4x4s to help me install the ring gear. Once it's seated down into place, we're going to find our two marks that we made earlier and line them up. Once your ring gear is lined up, you can just start putting it back together. I am going to reuse my straps with the old tabs broken off, and I'm also going to use some red Loctite just to be safe. Just go through each one. Some will say this is overkill, that you don't need thread lock with these tabs, but I've had these apart before with the tabs in place, and every single one was finger tight. More so on the 41s than the 44s, but after 70 years, stuff happens. Try to do it evenly and make sure your gap is closed all the way around. The impact gun is just to save time. We're going to torque this with a torque wrench now. Torquing all the bolts down, torquing them to 50 foot-pounds. Once they're all torqued down, go through and bend up these tabs. Here's the finished product, all cleaned up, torqued, and ready to reinstall. It's important that the outer races and the bearing caps go back in the same orientation and on the same side that they were removed from. Once you have the bearing caps in and everything's where it needs to be, go through and torque the bearing caps. Torquing these to 60 foot-pounds. The locker's in. Now repeat steps 1 through 15 in reverse. For lubrication, you can just use whatever you normally use. I like the Lucas 90 weight, just regular GL5. Fill it up to the normal level. Well, that is it for the locker installation. Let me know if you have any questions. If you want to get your own, check out the link in the description. Stay tuned for a front locker video, and catch you later.